Beach, where almost 81 years ago, as the first rays of sun came up above the horizon, tens of thousands of Allied troops invaded the beaches of Normandy. We are heading off to another train station today, Gare Saint-Lazare, which should take us west to the city of Caen. It's about a 2-hour train journey, and that will take us to the region of Normandy, which is special for me in particular for a couple of reasons that we'll tell you about as we go on this journey. You enter Gare Saint-Lazare. This is the scale of the concourse area. It's sort of an entire mall in here as well. So plenty of places to get food, although you'll be paying a fortune. We're all waiting out here, a little bit like cattle. Our train is the 829 over there to Caen, but we're waiting to find out what platform it's on. So let me see if I can find my family back through here, through the chaos of people arriving and leaving. Here they are. With an efficiency to which we've become accustomed in these last 4 days, no one knows which platform we have to go to, including staff. They just said, wait here, it'll be somewhere around here. So as far as we know, the trains to Normandy all leave from over here, platform 22 to 27. Okay, so we've made it onto the platform for the train, but now we've got to walk all the way up. Apparently there's 2 trains parked, one in front of the other, so we need to get on the front train. These are double-decker trains as well, so we'll be on the upper deck. So I think the 2 on the side here means the class number, not the actual carriage number. It's very confusing. There's a number on the side of the train, and it kept saying 222, and then you realize that's actually the class of the train. You have to look at the small video screen, LCD screen, to see what the actual number of your carriage is. So we are in seats, we're upstairs, and we're sitting in seats 143, 144 and 148. Unlike on the Eurostar, there's really good plug access over here. So you've got 2 USB ports plus 2 plugs under each pair of chairs. There's even Wi-Fi on the train. You've got your fold-out table over here on both sides. Maybe Grace will have a whole seat to herself, who knows. And we're now stopping our faces on breakfast. Now breakfast we bought here at the train station did cost a little bit more, just over 17 euros. And we're on our way. We're 10 minutes late, so we'll see if we catch up in time on the way to Normandy. We're heading to Caen station, as I mentioned earlier, and then from there we're due to take a bus up to the coast, so we should have plenty of time to switch over to the bus once we get there. So this train was only 40 euros for the 3 of us. That's about 80 New Zealand, $50 US, to head all the way to Normandy, which is more than a 2-hour high-speed rail trip. So we have arrived in Caen, and here we are at the train station. Now there's the bus station right over here, Nomad car. This is where you want to come in. Now if like us you have a shortage of cash, then you want to buy your tickets here if you can by credit card. Do you want to sit in the sun? So there's a very helpful guy here at Information who allowed me to buy return tickets using my credit card. So we are on bus 101R to the waterfront, to the beaches of Normandy. Welcome to Normandy and to the tiny town of Bernières-sur-Mer, if I'm saying that correctly. We're in the Canadian sector, so join us as we explore this incredible part of world history together. So we've literally just stepped out the door of our accommodation.
That's this one.
And that is the view in front of us. These are the very beaches where Canadian soldiers, more than 10,000 of them, landed a single day to liberate France from the German occupation. Many of these buildings, not the one we're in, but down there, for instance, famously survived the onslaught as the Canadians came up the beach in hundreds of landing craft over here. Although it is sunny today, it is exceptionally windy. You can see we're all wearing our winter gear. You just wonder what it was like on that day in June 1944. Remember, the weather had been bad. The Allied landings were planned for the 5th of June and then delayed one day, hoping for a clearing in the bad weather. And that clearing came. Man, this place is a deal. My pursuit for the cheapest water in France continues. This is the same brand we've been drinking all the way through, crystalline, we'd say in English, and we just paid 19 cents for a 1.5 litre bottle here. I don't even know how they produce the plastic cheaply enough to do that, but anyway, cheap water. You can drink the water out of the tap here, but when you're on the go, sometimes you just forget, and it's just easier to buy one of these. 19 cents. So here is our very classy lunch on the park bench outside Intermarché, super. This entire meal cost us, in fact, 3 meals. We have here 4 baguettes lying on the ground for $6. We bought a pack of Moroccan tomatoes, some Lipton tea, a bottle of water I've already mentioned for 19 cents, a pack of brie, probably 250 gram, salami, 2 packets of chips and a packet of peanuts as snacks for the princely sum of €20, and a pack of baked beans with sausages that we'll be using for dinner tonight that we'll cook up at the place we're staying.
And another loaf of bread.
I spent my childhood reading historical accounts of World War I and World War II. It's always been a dream of mine to be able to visit these beaches where the greatest ever invasion from the sea happened in all of human history. So it's really special to be here today. So we're heading over to the museum, which is over there, but to get there we have to go the wrong way around to cross the bridge. But what's really cool is we're heading through, look at all the shells.
Yeah, look at all the seagulls.
And the seagulls. This is obviously an active fishing area, and so we're getting to see all the fishermen here selling their seafood right here on the edge of the water. If you want fresh seafood, this would be the place to come. You're steps away from the water, and they bring them in these big crates from off the boats and then sell them direct to you on land. So we have reached the center of Juno Beach. There are all these pillars out here commemorating all those who died. But what's really interesting is they weren't all people who died on D-Day. Many have mentioned that, but you have here, for example, Seaman George Baldwin, Royal Canadian Navy, Battle of the Atlantic, Lance Corporal John Gilbert, Toronto, Scottish Regiment, France, Holland, Germany, is where he served. We have made it inside the center, Juno Beach. We're being met by some really friendly and helpful staff at the front counter. Now, if you come to the area by train through to Caen from Paris, for example, you get a significant discount on your tickets. So keep your tickets from using the train and you'll get in here much cheaper. just waiting here at the bus stop. So final thoughts on the museum that we just visited. I really quite enjoyed it. There was lots to think about. There's a really good sort of 12 or 14 minute video, quite graphic, but it gives you a sense of what the soldiers really experienced as they, came ashore in Normandy, and the unknown, and what they sacrificed to liberate Europe. So, you had those soldiers coming to this country, all of them volunteers, as I learned today from Canada, to come and liberate Europe. And yet so many of the interactive activities, especially for kids, are all about climate change or being an eco-warrior or identity politics. And you really think, is that what those guys came to die for? Or have Canadian politicians and ideologues co-opted this museum for their own purposes and for their own ideals, and things that really had nothing to do with what those men gave their lives for?
I feel like Grace learned more about climate change in Canada and the plight of Indigenous people than she did actually about what happened here and what Canadians did for the freedoms that we enjoy now.
That said, the people were incredibly friendly.
They were.
The staff, they were fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'm still really glad that we went. I just think that they lost focus, and from a position that we can only enjoy because of the freedoms that we have.
Well, exactly, that's right.
So that was super cool. We just got on the bus. The bus driver didn't quite know where to drop us off, even though I showed him on Google Maps and it had the French name of our stop there. He was super friendly, asked us where we were from. Somehow, miraculously, I remembered how to say New Zealand in French. The only French I know, I think. And he was like, oh, yeah, okay. And then he didn't charge us. I don't know why he didn't charge us. He didn't charge us when we got on the bus.
We did try to pay.
We did try to pay. And then he let us off, and I tried to pay again, and he's no. So that was fantastic. I'm standing on the beach where almost 81 years ago, as the first rays of sun came up above the horizon, tens of thousands of Allied troops invaded the beaches of Normandy. This was to repel the Germans who had occupied the country for 4 years and to send them packing back to Germany in the last major push to rid Europe of Nazi tyranny. This has been a lifelong dream for me, to be able to visit this place. I studied it as a child, I read books about it, and today I get to stand on the very beach where so many gave their lives to preserve the way of life that we have held dear for so many years. As we stand here 81 years later, I can only wonder whether those soldiers who bled and died here that day would look at our world today and say that it was worth shedding their blood for. We have a lot to live up to. The position I'm standing at here offers one of the best views to the east, and from just a little further along here to the west, a panoramic view of the entire Juno Beach and down towards Sword Beach over there. Juno Beach, the sector here in front of me, was where the Canadian forces landed. Sword down the end was where British forces landed, and to the west, 3 more beaches, Gold, Omaha and Utah, where the American soldiers led the attack into Europe. General Rommel himself, one of the most famous, notorious, if you like, generals in the German army, who had for many years kept the Allies at bay in North Africa, had finally been defeated in 1943 and was assigned to personally oversee the bolstering of defences here in Normandy. Something interesting you notice about this gun emplacement and others like it as you walk down the beach, we saw one yesterday, is that it doesn't directly face the beach. That's solid concrete, perhaps a meter, 3 or 4 feet thick, facing toward the water. The use for this cannon was that it would be directed in this direction towards tanks coming up the beach, many of them amphibious vehicles, Shermans for example, as used by the Americans and Canadians, amphibious assault tanks, or in this direction, again, facing down the beach. So it was protected from direct attack from the ocean. Naval vessels that bombarded the beachfront and these emplacements before the assault began wouldn't be able to penetrate that wall of thick concrete, but then this cannon could be used to pick off tanks as they came up out of the water. It took many hours for some of these emplacements to be defeated, by which time they'd often claimed many tanks and many lives of their own. Something else that many people don't realize is that these beaches here in Normandy are notorious for their currents, dangerous currents. In fact, we've seen many signs along the beach here warning not to swim because of the dangerous currents. And yet it is into these waters, sometimes as far as 100 yards offshore, that soldiers were forced to leap from the landing craft as these German emplacements up here were raining down machine gun fire on them. I read a story yesterday of one Canadian who, as he leapt from his landing craft, was preceded by 3 comrades, all of whom were shot dead on the spot. And he believes the only reason he survived uninjured was because the machine gun was between bursts of gunfire from up here on the beaches. But because these waters had such dangerous currents, if you managed to escape the hail of gunfire, you then had to effectively swim your way into shore, often dropped at waist height or even shoulder height into that water. Because of those dangerous currents and the heavy weight of the packs the men were carrying, many drowned before they even reached the shore. And yet today we commemorate the invasion of Normandy as a military success, and indeed it was. It was the attack that finally pushed Hitler out of France and back towards Germany. While the number of casualties on that day was high and initial assaults were not as successful as the Allies might have hoped for, the actual casualty figures were less than 1 in 10. Now that sounds extraordinarily high. Imagine lining up with 9 of your friends and knowing that 1 of you wouldn't make it through today, either killed or perhaps wounded. But I believe that the Allied commanders would have settled for a 1 in 10 casualty rate had they known that's what it would be when the day began. So as we walk down these streets here, just away from the waterfront, as many thousands of soldiers would have done all those years ago, we're starting off on our next day of our trip. It's a full one. We're about to take the bus to see the second reason I wanted to come to Normandy, to see where my ancestors were based before they invaded England in 1066 and conquered that island nation. So we'll take the bus to get down there, then we will take the train back to Paris, switch to the subway to another station in Paris, and then hop on a 6-hour train journey crossing almost 600 miles to reach Nice at about 10 o'clock tonight. It'll then be another tram ride or potentially Uber, depending how exhausted we feel. And from there, we'll reach our hotel in Nice. So in 1060, my Viking forebears, led by William of Normandy, built this chateau here in Caen in northern France. Of course, this is the William who 6 years later would go on to most famously conquer England. The last time that anyone has conquered England. During World War II, this chateau was bombed extensively during the destruction of Caen in July 1944. Much of the original castle remains, although some restoration work was no doubt required after the bombings. We'll check it out together today. You can access a lot of the chateau at no cost. You can access the battlements that we're standing on now, and we'll be heading over inside in a minute. We've got amazing views out over the city. You'll see that many of the buildings here in Caen are much newer, and that's because so much of the city was destroyed during Allied bombings in 1944 to flush out the last German defenders. Local citizens paid a big price for the freedom of France. One of the most famous events at this castle occurred at Christmas 1182, when there was a giant banquet held here attended by over 1,000 knights, as well as by the future King of England, Richard the Lionhearted, as well as Henry II, and John Lackland, who would also later become a King of England. It was also the site of at least 3 major battles during the 100-Year War. We get to walk on that site now. These 2 days in Normandy have been some of the most precious of my life to me. We came here to remember. We have left with gratitude and questions. What are we going to do with the freedom they died for? That's up to all of us.